Okay, just take 5 minutes. Get organized. You don't have to go live yet.
We are live. Finance Committee meeting of the Corporation Municipality of Central Elgin. Do any of the members present have a disclosure of pecuniary interest, please? Seeing none, our first presenter, I think our only presenter, is Mr. Jansseune with the proposed 2026 financial plan. Over to you, sir.
Before we begin, I just wanted to I just wanted to thank Mr. Jansseune and the senior leadership team for the time and effort that it went into preparing the documents. A lot of effort goes into this and a lot of work. So on behalf of the mayor and I just want to express my gratitude to David. And I just want to remind everyone that the process is different this year as a result of legislative changes. So the budget process will look a little bit different. The mayor, Mr. Jansseune, and I have met on a number of occasions with the senior leadership team. Today, the purpose of today is really to go through that material, to gather any questions, any concerns, anything you think we've forgotten, things that general comments as it relates to the material presented today. We'll take that and we'll finalize the documents. And then on January 5th, you'll receive your traditional budget binders with all of the supporting documentation, all the supporting operating capital rates, all that good stuff. And then once you have that will then become live for the public to consume. And then on January 26th, that's when council will be deliberating the presented material. And at that time, amendments can be brought forward to that meeting for consideration. So as I said, the purpose of today is really to go through operating at a high level, consolidated level. Then we'll go through the capital plan. So each of the senior leaders will walk through their suggested proposed capital projects for 2026. We'll probably take a little break after that. Then we'll jump into water and wastewater rates and we'll discuss those. And then finally, we'll end up with our user fees. So those are the type of fees and charges that we offer residents for services. So whether it's a license fee or a permit fee, those types of things. And ultimately, those 4 pieces of information will form the 2026 budget for your deliberation in January. So I would suggest that, Mayor Simone, with your indulgence, that we get through, essentially, David will go through the operating portion of the presentation, take a pause, and then any questions that you have for Mr. Jansseune will be taken at that time. And then likewise, we'll get through the capital and then we'll take questions at the end if it works for everyone.
Yeah, just to add, I think there's opportunity for a healthy debate on any of these items. Happy to have those discussions. I spoke with soon-to-be Warden Jagger this morning. Malahide, as you know, is also a strong mayor. So they're doing very similar to us. I think they present on Thursday originally. Some don't go to the finance committee, some go right to council. So we're all in the same boat, but I do hope everyone has look forward to a rigorous consideration of everything, and thanks to everybody for putting it together. So with that.
And then David, if you can just explain what everybody has before them, and then we'll start because we will have paper and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you, Carrie, Mayor Sloan. Thank you to this group as well, because I couldn't put this budget together without everyone's help in this room. So thank you very much. This year we are doing it a little bit different. There will be a presentation behind me on the main screen and it will be live, right? We've also printed out the presentation for you to take notes. Sometimes it's helpful to write comments or reminders to yourself or whatever you can be on your paper. So this is the main presentation. There is also a capital presentation that the group has put together just to walk you through some of the key capital projects. Again, it's printed out for you can take notes. Also, when you first arrived, I was handing out 3 schedules. So one is the consolidated schedule for the entire municipality. It shows you 2025 budget, 2026 budget, and unfavorable or favorable if the budget's favorable or unfavorable to the previous year. The next schedule under that would be the capital schedule. That may be helpful to have in front of you when the group is going through your capital. It will show you funding, where funding's coming from. And the last schedule is the reserves. This year, something that we're doing a little bit different, the schedules that you have in front of you include all of our internal notes. So literally you see everything that I've documented. Hopefully it's in proper order because I wasn't planning on sending that out, but we did. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. With that, I will ask Delaney to start the presentation. Does anyone have any questions before we begin? Okay. So we will go through the 4 sections, as Carrie said. First being operating revenue and expenses. Before we go there, I think I owe it to the group to tell you how we developed it. I think that is important. The budget is similar to last year. It's segmented. We looked at various sections. It's easier to build that way. We have tried to integrate the rates and fees to the best of our abilities. Taxation has been calculated and obviously verified with MPAC. Salaries and benefits, there's quite a bit of work behind the scenes. If you have any questions, please let me know. But it is a zero-based budgeting approach for salaries. And of course, benefits are derived from whoever is in the salary grid. We've reconciled leases and contracts wherever possible. We do use 6 years of actuals plus 6 years of budget for all consumables. So some of it is actually trended. So a good example of that would be sand or salt or things like that. We use trending. We do account by account reviews at the very end. There's quite a few of them. This year, although you don't see it here, the final budget will have the usual schedule. So you'll see the investments that we have, the interest that we're earning, all of that stuff. I didn't think we had enough time today to go through all that stuff. We have the carryover projects, 3 from last year and 35 new capital projects. And something new this year is we do have some alignment with the asset management plan, which we will touch on later. And yeah, I think that's it. So with that, we'll dive into some numbers. Okay. If you wanted to follow along, you can look at the consolidated schedule. But it kind of, that some of the numbers aren't going to reconcile because this schedule is calculated based on the end result of this meeting, which is obviously how debatable. So the way we built the budget is we looked at our operating revenue there. We do have a 3.1% increase over the 2025 budget. So revenue went from 24 million to 24.8 million. So we grew about $800,000 in revenue. On the screen here is really the key drivers behind that. Assessment growth accounts for 239,000 of that. Assessed value within the municipality grew by about $25 million. So that translated into about $239,000 of tax levy. Short-term rentals is in our budget for 2026, $238,000 expected from licensing. Although that shows as increased revenue, it doesn't help our bottom line because there's $238,000 of offsetting expenses. $150,000 of estimated court security grant, which quite frankly, we missed in the 2025 budget. So we're bringing that into the 2026 budget. $126,000 in increased development fees. We did update our fees mid-year in 2025. So this is a reflection of those updated fees. About $105,000 in miscellaneous fees, and that's spread across a lot of accounts. But we are looking at parking fees, fire recovery. Fire recovery is the money that we receive from insurance companies when our fire teams are involved in those accidents, ice and haul rentals. The OMPF grant increased by almost 10% this year. So we're sitting at 668, which we do bring into operating. All the other grants go into capital. This is the only grant that we do bring into operating. And $42,000 increased solid waste cart fees by increasing those fees by 5%. Unfortunately, with the renewal of our one-year GICs, which I believe this year we renewed the 10 million and the 4 million, we did lose $250,000 on those renewals. So last year, Central Elgin was lucky enough to invest at about 5.5%. 5.35. 5.35. And this year we're investing at just over 3. So operating expenses, fairly long list here, but one thing that I do want to point out with the numbers that you're seeing, revenue grew by 3.1% from last year, but expenses are growing by 4.3%. So obviously we're going in the wrong direction there. But expenses grew from 20 million to 20.9 million. And again, that's budget to budget. So this list is quite long. 733 plus 286 in benefits from salaries. We did add 4.0 FTE to the roster. Council did pre-approve 3.25 of those already. So I am showing it here, but 3.25 were pre-approved already. And that's really the planning and the STR group. And really here, the 0.75 fire inspector, I think you've heard from even the master plan last night with the persuasion to increase that fire inspector to 1.0. This budget does that. It brings it from 0.25 to 1.0.
David, do you want to just mention the COLA that's included with that as well? The cost of living, the 2%?
I definitely can.
It's okay, just maybe make mention of what that is.
Okay. Give me a second.
We don't need the number, just.
No, but you bring up a good point, which I'll take the group through. OPP, we did receive a letter earlier this year where the province capped the OPP at 11%. We did build in the full 11%, which when we were talking with the mayor, and good thing that we did because the actual invoice come through and it was 11%.
It came through on Friday at 11%, highest they could do it.
So that does add $271,000 to our cost. 140,000 this year on municipal drains. That's the municipal portion of those drains. You heard about the Bachner drain last night. There's also the oil drain and McLaws drain. The McLaws drain was discussed previously with council, and there is an approved motion probably a couple months ago for the 99,000. 100,000 for municipal elections. So 2026 is of course election year. 75% of that is funded from reserves. So the true impact for this year is only the 25,000. 62,000 for increased equipment charges. And really that boils down to really two events. The garbage truck rental is costing us about 123,000. But that was partially offset with reduced maintenance costs of 71,000. So net impact was about 60,000 or 62,000. Insurance, this is an estimate, and since then it has changed, but I unfortunately didn't have time to update this, but 60,000 increased insurance. This is assuming a 7.5% increase in insurance, which is not. The numbers come in at about 2.5%. So we have a little bit of contingency built into the 60,000, not a lot, but a little bit. We did increase the claims under 50,000. So those, if we have claims under our threshold, which is $50,000 deductible, we tend to pay them out. And we it's almost like a self-insurance. We typically run about 70,000 on that line. So we're increasing it from 50 to 70. 32,000 on conservation authorities. Kettle Creek coming at about 4.4%, whereas Catfish had a 20% increase. We are putting in $10,000 for traffic calming measures. So that's all the pluses on the expenses. Now the favorable side, or where I'm reducing costs, $410,000. You'll remember 3 loans matured in 2025. Out of those three loans, 410,000 affect operating, excluding water and wastewater. So $410,000 reduction there. $330,000 reduction, which really offsets some of our planning staff up above. But we did discontinue the CEPO contract with St. Thomas. $81,000 savings in information technology, but really it's not a savings because we've pushed $109,000 into capital. $47,000 on reduced fuel costs, and that's pretty much across every department. We're just seeing a continuous 2 years now. The only thing I can think of is fuel costs really increased over COVID, and then they're dropping now. And I think you're seeing where budgets were wrapped up, and now they're coming back down to that $1.30 per liter.
Just before we go through, thank you. I think it should be noted by the council that our OPP bill in the last 2 years has gone up $1 million. Okay, so we were at 2.2 or 3 when we started, and that was locked in. And then we went up 600,000, and now we're going up another 3. So essentially, we started at around 2, and now we're at 3.2. So I think there's a broader discussion to have. I think we found doing some research that we're not locked into any contract now. It's on an annual basis, but when we got the note saying it was up to 11%, we had presumed, of course, that maybe it wouldn't be quite 11%. It is the total 11%. So I think that this council should think about that as a discussion point in the new year. I realize that, you know, the second piece on here is that I looked at conservation authorities. We had a motion last night that they're going to amalgamate. They must have reserves, right? But I guess Ms. Hurd tells me that's not a battle worth taking on right now. But at the end of the day, we're going up 20% at Catfish, and they're going to be a totally new, and as with Kettle Creek, it'll be a totally new organization next year. I realize it's just $32,000.
New term of council, not next year, but
Pardon me.
2027.
New term of council.
Yeah.
And lastly, the traffic calming pieces. I talked to Councillor Graham, Councillor Graham has these issues. Councillor Connors had it at his town hall. Councillor Bachman had it at his town hall. And I said, instead of a piecemeal, let's put up that we have an actual fund for traffic calming to show the people that we hear them. Now, Councillor Connors this morning told me that the number here should be 2 or 3 times that. These are all up for debate, but I think that anyone at the council table of the different wards or deputy mayor realizes that traffic's an issue. And I think that that's why I'd asked that we put a placeholder in for the 10,000. So do you want to mention the 25,000 for the donation program that's not on there under reduced?
Community grants.
Community grants is still in the 2026 budget, but it was reduced from 50,000 to 25,000. The 25,000 is being funded through the reserve or the surplus from 2025, which was 23,000.
Because it was fully accessed. Those are my only comments.
Carrie does bring up a good point about understanding salaries a little bit better. So if you want to jot this down, I didn't print it out, but what we're talking about so far is the consolidated statement for the municipality excluding water and wastewater. And that's typically the way municipalities do it. My salary bridge is all inclusive because I want to see what's happening in salaries across the entire municipality. So the numbers will not tie perfectly to this because this is missing water and wastewater. But if you would like, salaries grew by $767,000. 477,000 of that is the FTE that you see in front of you. COLA, which is 2%. Which is according to our cubic contract, but we do apply it to all union and non-union staff. That's 161,000. Band and role changes from people. Sometimes this happens with when people leave the organization and we're recruiting new staff and just simply reevaluating jobs. So people changing bands or roles, 82,000. Step increases where we do have a 5-step process with pay increases. Step increases here have historically, and again, this year is 46,000. It's pretty static here. So that should be, when you add that up, that should be $767,000. On the benefits side, benefits increased by 298,000. Of the 298, 154 is directly related to the FTE count. And the remaining 144 is just changes in our, just premium changes in our benefit provider. I do have all of this information, so if somebody is interested in it, just let me know. I can take it. So the next slide. So this, please don't mistake this slide as capital. It's not really capital. This slide shows you the tax levy that we collect. And taxes alone, what are we putting towards capital versus reserves? So you can see in 2025, we put $3.9 million to either capital or reserve. And this year, the way the numbers sit here, we're at 3.8 million. So close, but not quite keeping up to last year.
No positive, ask questions for operator.
Yes. Good, good, Carrie.
May I have a question? So your 2% increase of COLA at 260,000, that's union and non-union.
161,000 was total COLA for the entire municipality, 161,000.
Sorry, spread me. I don't know what's, but that's union and non-union. How many employees is that?
FTE counts 88. Salary wise or staffing wise, we have to add at least 100 for the firefighters. So I don't have that off the top of my head, but it's,
No,
it's
but
around
out of the 88, how many are union? How many are non-union? 50, 33, or I got 34 outdoor workers. Okay,
Yeah, I can get that. I
just was curious.
We have it readily available, but
Okay, I just wondered what the mix was because we're mandated with 2% on QP. We're not mandated on 2% on salary, correct?
that's correct. Yes.
Dave, can you just tell me, with the 2025 reserve and capital transfers, how much of that went to reserve, how much of that went to capital?
The bottom line, 1.9 million. The one above it there, $1.7 million of tax levy went directly to support capital, and 2.2 net went to increase.
Oh, okay,
reserves.
sorry.
We can proceed to capital if you like, and we can always come back if someone has questions. Or is that okay with the group?
Are those pretty static from a couple of years prior? These 3.8, 3.9?
I didn't go back.
You didn't,
to tell you the
yeah,
truth.
and that's fair.
It's
Are we in a healthy position?
on reserves.
Yeah.
Good question. We'll show you the reserves, but I can't really answer that until I do the financial. On the surface, the reserves look pretty good. We're well over 30 million. But again, it really depends on what our financial requirements are to provide the same level of service that we have today and moving into the future. That will be coming in probably February or March of 2026. Okay, we can move into capital. We can always come back. So this is just a highlights. The way we'll run capital is I'm just going to take you through the highlights, and then we're going to ask the directors around the room to speak to their capital projects, just to give you an idea of what's being proposed. So we do have 38 capital projects. It is quite a bit less than the previous year, but the dollar values are almost the same. So we're about $14.4 million this year. Last year was 15.33. Funding strategies, because the asset management plan is here. I know you folks haven't seen it yet, but we have been trying to work with it. We do have a gap. We are trying to reduce the drawdowns on the reserves, and I think this chart over to the right actually shows that. The blue bars are 2026 funding, and orange shows where we were last year. You can see on the DC reserves, the drawdown is quite a bit less. And even on our non-DC reserves, from the right, the drawdown is almost half. We are hopeful that we can secure grants for some of our capital projects, which we'll go through in a minute. We'll continue pursuing both provincial and federal grant opportunities for those projects. So that's kind of at a high level where capital sits. If we flip to the next screen, which you have in front of you there, but at this point, yes.
So the blue on the grants, is that just hope?
We're hopeful.
That's a hope then, at over $6 million of grants.
So we're made aware that we have some provincial funding opportunities. The province announced at AMO a significant investment in infrastructure. And so although we can't indicate whether we were successful, we are certainly hopeful that that money will be coming into our coffers in 2026, early 2026. We'll receive that announcement.
When?
In January, before the finalization of the budget.
After Roma?
Before Rome.
During probably is our guess.
Yeah.
You know how they like to have a
Good
little,
timing, yeah, yeah.
again, that's speculative, folks.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll ask Delaney to switch presentations to capital, and the director will walk you through the capital and just at a high level explanations as to what each are.
If you turn to your capital sheet here, if you turn to this, it indicates funding sources for each of those projects. So you'll see whether it's funded through DCs, other grants, either taxes or reserves. So it's a good. That one there. You'll see in the top left capital. And then beyond that is your reserve schedule. And we'll start with Scott.
Thank you, First George.
Oh, sorry, oh, my apologies.
Okay, I'll kick it off here with the first project that we'll talk about is the 7th Ave road reconstruction in Belmont. As everyone is aware, there is a new school being constructed in Belmont on 7th Ave. And in order to accommodate the new school, there are 3 projects that are being proposed, all to support that school. The first one is the 7th Ave road reconstruction. So the municipality would be proposing to reconstruct 7th Ave from Snyder's Ave, moving west to a point just west of the school property. That would introduce a left-hand turning lane into the school, as well as provide an urban cross-section from Snyder's Ave and fronting the new school. The second portion of that project will be to construct a new sidewalk on the south side of 7th Ave to accommodate pedestrian traffic to and from the school, as well as Craig Home subdivisions. And then the third piece of this project would be a new set of signals at 7th Ave and Belmont Road. That project will be led by Elgin County. However, the municipality has a portion to pay for a left-hand turning lane onto Belmont Road, as well as a short widening of 7th Ave at Belmont Road and pavement markings to accommodate that signalized intersection. So.
What is the length of that sidewalk, Jeff?
I don't have the length in front of me here.
Can you get that for me?
Yep.
Yep.
That sidewalk, I believe, is let's see. 200 yards. I was gonna talk about the funding of it. I believe it's 100% paid for by development charges. So that one was identified in the last DC background study. So the sidewalk has no tax impact. As the intersect or the road upgrade, I believe is paid for 58% from development charges and 42% from benefit to existing. So I believe that one's being covered by grants. So, and then the signals, that one would be paid DC 58,000 and 42,000 from existing. That would be tax funded, the 42. Yeah, we've spoken to this one.
Based on, based on the roads need study that was done, staff, we've put together, we've got a very detailed, comprehensive, back info on this, on all the different areas. We've summarized it here, based on, for our annual road resurfacing for 2026. We're looking to spend 1.6 million in the various areas, broken out through gravel resurfacing, gravel conversion, surface treatment, hot mix asphalt, and crack sealing, and those are the total kilometers that are allocated there. If you have anything specific you want to look at or dig deeper, we've got the background info as to which roads, and it's quite detailed. I'd be happy to go through with you, but that is the overall, that's the annual road resurfacing program that we've identified within this budget. From a fleet perspective, just the one item, which is the replacement of the second garbage truck, as you know, with the rental that we have in place now to help offset some of the aging infrastructure there and the maintenance costs, et cetera. The first one, the tender closes next week. So we're in the process of that. This is approval to move forward with the second replacement, which wouldn't arrive on site probably until 2028. But it's in order to get this in the queue and get it ordered.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. We were doing a fleet review. When do the results of that come to council?
It's coming, it'll likely in January. We're aiming to have, similar to what with the fire master plan, looking to hold a special workshop to kind of go through that. So we're to have the final report delivered to us as of Thursday of this week. So we're just working on the final stages of that now.
Is there any way that final review will affect this? No? Okay, thank you.
One question, what's the life expectancy of that replacement vehicle?
Of the
Dump truck or the garbage
the
truck?
garbage truck? Well, I believe the other ones, I'm gonna say probably 4 to 5 years. Depends on their use. I believe the two we have right now were from 2019, 2020. I'm looking to those who have been around longer than me. So, but I would say 5 years. But again, would depend on kilometers.
And the rental cost on that one,
It's
For the year?
$10,000 monthly.
$10,000 a month. It's almost the same money.
I think, through experience, when we brought the solid waste program in-house, we had anticipated a 7-year lifespan on the trucks that we have. I know that Alex has had discussions with other solid waste providers, and there's the ability to buy a more solidly built truck that could get you as far as 10 years with a major rebuild after 6 or 7 years. So I know that Alex had been looking into some of that earlier in the year. So, anywhere from about 5 to 10 years, I think, is typical for a garbage truck.
How many kilometers on them?
I can find that. I don't know.
Any what goes on them that they're at their end of their life?
There's just a numerous, there's sorts of hydraulics and things from what I understand. There's numerous parts, and I think that getting the parts are getting more and more challenging. The rental, the beauty with the rental is, you know, if it goes, they take the rental back, they give us a replacement within a day. So there's no loss of service, but there's just numerous things that I can get you a detailed report as to the breakdown, but it'll be a whole laundry list of items.
I'm just wondering if the rental idea, if you kind of beat them up on the price enough, if it would be a better option than owning them. Because then you wouldn't need to have a backup unit. Just a thought.
I think there's options.
Yeah.
For that, you know, I think, you know, if you're able to carry that, you get a 7-year lifespan out of the truck, you're gonna beat it owning the truck as opposed to
Okay.
renting the truck. When I take a look at what Miller Waste does, they're not renting trucks, they're buying their own trucks. So, as long as you have the ability to have a backup truck, which is the difficult part, I think if we keep a truck back, then you have a backup truck. So when you bring one in, you repair that truck, but you don't interrupt service. That's the key.
Yeah.
But if you've got this option of leasing or buying, would that not fall under a lease or fleet review? So like, you raise the point, 10,000 a month, we don't have the 548 outlay, we don't know how long it's gonna cost, and if the rental breaks down, somebody gets it, comes and picks it up, okay? So is that not something we should maybe be considering?
I think so. At least look at it.
Those options are considered in the fleet review, so I think we'll be discussing that at length, I'm sure, as we get into that.
But shouldn't, at budget time is sort of the time that we should be.
I think if I can, and so again, this is the purpose of the budget or the capital review now is, if council decides to go forward with the purchase of the vehicle, then that would happen at budget, and then that will be actioned. However, if council is wanting to consider their options as it relates to leasing versus that, I would recommend that to Jennifer that comes out of the budget and defer this discussion or just defer this decision as part of the budget. Because now is the time for the discussion. Because once this is approved in budget, then we will action it. So if the committee or council or Mayor Sloan wants to take a pause on that, I think, now is to have the discussion.
I was just gonna mention that, I believe that garbage truck is being purchased out of our equipment reserve. So
This one or the other one?
both. Right, so
We're still
there will be
buying
the
it.
ability to defer the project, I think, until later on in the year and then pull from that reserve. Because you don't need to raise taxes necessarily to purchase that truck, so you can defer it till after the fleet review is done. And then,
Right, but then we're depleting reserves. I guess the point is,
Access.
right, it's still money that came from mom and pop and everyone in this room. So at the end of the day, is it better value for us to have a lease or a rental rather? So I'd just like to underline that as a question.
Well, and the spin out on that is if you're renting, you don't necessarily need the fleet reserve to purchase those. If you're renting them, just,
yeah, I'll defer to Scott.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
and like, I don't think we need to have a deep conversation today, but kind of.
Yeah, we had other fleet items on within the budget, but as part of we had this conversation during the fleet review. And that's why the ask within fleet
That's excellent.
is just the truck. That question came up as, in fairness to council, we want you to see the full fleet study first, so we can understand the full fleet picture before we start, making some adjustments, which will inform 2027 budget, moving forward. I think it's a good exercise to do, and I agree with Jeff. I think if it's something that we can, if we defer the purchase of this, it's still going to come from the equipment reserve. But I think it would be advantageous to have that fuller conversation when we complete the fleet review at the later date. So we're aiming for that mid-January. It might line up.
So Scott, can you explain why you wanted to keep this as the budget? Because we had those discussions
Yep.
as the leadership team, so why is it important that you would keep this? That you
Well,
feel it's important?
we've identified it, certainly more because of the length of time it takes to order these units, right? So we know we need the second unit, whether we rent or release. We wanted to get it into the budget now, for discussion and approval. So we have time to get it ordered if that's the direction that council wants to go in. So
It seems like putting the cart in front of the horse, though, if we are gonna have the discussion in January about if we're gonna move to a rental system or owning our own, we wouldn't want to be ordering one before we make that decision. So it doesn't seem like this should be in the budget right now.
I guess the good thing is if it wasn't in here, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. So it's kind of.
Well, we'd
important
have it
that
at
is
fleet
there,
time,
what we're talking
or the
about.
fleet review time we'd have it at.
The fleet review's intent is to provide you a full picture of the program, future recommendations. Staff is still, regardless of the fleet review, staff have identified the need to replace the second garbage truck. That being said, council has a decision to either replace or lease. Staff at this time are recommending that it be replaced.
I think it should come out until we have the fleet review. I think it's a
No,
moot
I
point.
think you're gonna need it. Talking to the operators of those trucks, it's just not the truck that wears out, it's all those components to it. And nobody really knew that the big steel plate in the bottom of the box, that's what wears out. And then to try and weld that in later, that's crazy to fix later. So they need newer, updated stuff going forward. The other thing that the contractor in Malahide, he asked for 25% more on his tender to take over that garbage. They said, no, we better take this to procurement for a tender, and it went up over 35 to 40%. They don't even want to talk about it when they went to another contractor to do it. So I like keeping it in-house, give the guys the tools they need, and I say that truck is okay to have. We need it. The guys do need it.
Are we talking, we're not talking about farming out the service, though. We're just talking
No,
about renting.
I'm
the
saying
truck.
if we start, yeah, the renting the truck, but I'm just
That's
saying
what we're
what can
talking about.
happen. You might, if you don't get a truck, then what are you gonna do? Rent everything or go to a contractor to do this down the road? Are you gonna sell all our trucks?
No, we're talking
And then
about
we're gonna
renting
be
the
in
truck, right?
Yes, but
As
there's a
fleet.
slippery slope down the road where, hey, well, let's just let somebody else do it. I'm just saying right now, I think it's okay that we're doing it and need the truck. Go ahead.
Thanks. Fair point. In Councillor Graham's defense, I just purchased a truck, but I leased the last one, depending on but both trucks to me were necessities, right?
Yep.
So I look at the rent as a lease as the same. The question is how it affects the corporation and whether we need, and if there's extras included. I don't think anyone's questioning the service. In fact, Jeff, I was at the pilot meeting when Central Elgin in-housed the garbage, and I thought it was insane. And I would like to make very clear that I made a mistake in the sense that there was foresight to that only because of the ultimate costs and contractor costs. But you not only have the control, you have a better experience with the end user because the people that are working on the truck have skin in the game and they're all related and some of them are volunteer fire people. Everyone really likes them. And as Blaine, the CAO of Elgin County, said during his interview, somebody said to me, but what have you learned most about municipal politics? And he said, if they're happy with the garbage pickup, you're good. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Councillor Watson makes a good point, but I think Councillor Graham has a fair point on how we're looking at the reason staff are suggesting purchase versus rent. It's just sort of, I think, if we could underscore that.
for me, if we can extend the life expectancy of these vehicles to that 7-10 year mark, then the purchasing of the vehicle makes sense. But we're finding certainly with these vehicles that the wear and tear on them are quite significant. So if we can keep that in that 6-year time frame, then it makes sense. It would make sense to lease anything under that. So we need the 2 trucks. The additional truck we're renting right now is due to the age of the existing vehicles and the downtime that we're facing with both of these vehicles, and we can't afford to have any downtime on any of these vehicles. Hence why we're renting one right now. So
They're big costs, right? The downtime.
they have been, yeah, and yeah, they're down, and we're struggling to maintain that level of service out in the field.
And then these new trucks, do they have a different box supplier? Like, how are you looking for a better truck?
Correct,
like-
yeah.
Who supplies that box?
That I
Can you
can't
get,
answer.
is there different people that supply that?
I would imagine so. I think it's, I think the scope of work, if you look at the specifications that were put out, would be a lot different than the recent tender that's set right now that was 6 years ago.
6 years ago, when we procured those trucks, we had to do it in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
The contractor that we were working with canceled the contract, and we essentially had 3 months to get trucks here at the yard. So not to say anything against those trucks, but we essentially had to take what we could get at that time to continue that service on in 2019.
One question with what Norm said, is there an opportunity for us to make a couple bucks off Malahide and order some more trucks?
No,
Because we could, right? That
Kelly
could be a
Needson was the
for-profit option.
contractor that had it, so. And his trucks are set up differently than the way we collect.
So we'll put a, should we move forward, or let me ask here what we'd like to do on this item?
To me, it doesn't seem, if we're gonna make a decision whether we're gonna be renting them or or leasing them, or whether we're gonna be owning ours, why would we buy one before we even make that decision? Doesn't make sense. We should be making a decision and then decide if we're gonna, once we decide, okay, we're gonna keep owning our own trucks, then, okay, let's go and buy one. And it's only what, a month, 2 months, month and a half?
I think the business model is the trucks will last longer because they'll buy a better truck for the $550,000.
Well, shouldn't we wait
you'll-
for the
you'll-
fleet, though, the fleet plan to have all the details? So we need all the information to make a more informed decision.
The meeting's on the 12th for the fleet. Is fleet coming up on the 12th?
No, it'll be likely be a separate meeting that we still need to schedule. We haven't seen the
We won't get our
final.
timelines. Do you have any suggestions, Carrie, on what to do? I mean, with respect to a delay, go ahead, Scott. Looking for a solution.
I think at this point, if we were to pull this out right now, allow that fleet review to happen mid to late January and get, to Councillor Graham's point, give the full picture. At that point, we could bring it back to council as a separate report, knowing that it's coming from the equipment reserve anyway. It's not gonna have an impact
On the budget.
on the budget.
Right.
But I think we bring it back in
Okay.
February as a separate report. I think
That-
that's
The
a fair.
group okay with that? Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Scott.
Replacement of water meters, so we've identified this in the budget. I know this has been a past discussion of council, but we are bringing this forward yet again as part of the budget process. Certainly these have been identified in our drinking water quality management system through those reviews. Current meters are certainly starting to become more labor intensive and costly. So this is phase 1 of 4. So we would identify this over the next 4 budget years in order to get through all the meters.
Didn't we have a big grant to replace water meters a year or two ago?
Then,
No.
Mr. Jensen?
So it was passed in, I think, the 2024 budget to apply OSIF funding to a $900,000 proposed meter replacement. OSIF denied the request. OSIF is used for infrastructure, and they view water meters as not infrastructure, so it was denied.
Cause that was like $600,000, I thought.
900.
9.
so there's no grants that cover this?
Not that I'm aware of. This would flow through your water meter, like water rates. The funding.
There's some savings apparently that will come with modernization, fraud, all that kind of stuff, hopefully.
I think it's important to note that this is a 4-year project. So again, when the report came to council earlier this year about canceling the previous project, it was over 2.17, sorry,
2.7.
2.7 for the full project, for the full replacement value. So staff, and again, we'll have to amend this a little bit to include the full cost of the 4-year program. But staff are intending to phase this in over 4 years. So the first phase would bring in in 2026 for 637. And then once the ball is rolling, then every year for the next 3 years, you'll see a similar cost, but we would tender the project at one time. And so by committing to the 637, you're committing to a 4-year project. I think just a comment that we should build in that full project into the budget details so that you understand that once we get going, it's going to continue for 4 years, 3 more years.
And certainly the advantage of that is procuring it all as one, so that we can secure that pricing so that we're not paying more in year 4.
So does this result in a reduction in staff then?
No,
If we're not using staff to read, how would it not? If we're not using staff to read the meters anymore after the end of phase 4? It would seem to reduce staff time.
It's contracted out. Meter reading is contracted out.
So would it reduce the contract then?
yes,
Yes.
We wouldn't be using the contract, so how much does that save? Do we know?
$40,000, I believe.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
And FYI, labor has a U in it. Just for spelling.
In Canada.
My fault, sorry. Oh, you are.
That's just what's.
I'll pick up this one. As part of the 7th Ave construction project that I spoke of earlier. Another part of that project would be to extend the water main from the school west past the school. It's required for Craig Home subdivision, so that the total cost is 100% recoverable once Craig Home subdivision comes online and connects to it.
Public station control panel, 141,000 allocated for that. That's just due to age and condition of the panel itself. Station 71 repairs, generator replacement, $150,000 have been allocated for that.
Where is station 71?
What's that?
Where is?
Fort Stanley.
Fort Stanley.
Yes.
So it has to have a new generator already.
It's that as far as I've been told, yes.
The building's 4 years old.
Is this at the wastewater treatment plant?
This is a pump station. I'm not sure exactly where 71 is located,
I
but
apologize if perhaps I got I know there's
No,
different
no.
stations if there's somebody, I'm trying to get
I
them.
made a mistake. I'm thinking of something else. Sorry, sorry, thanks. Mom. Sorry about that. I didn't read the top part. Apologies. Oops.
The Port Stanley wastewater treatment plant clarifiers, this is to repair that. There's a fair bit of work that needs to be done there. I know that we need to ensure that we have the right capacity at this location to support growth and development. So it's been identified to sooner rather than later, especially as development is continuing to grow. We don't want to miss that opportunity. For that. Parks and facilities. Start with the Belmont Arena refrigeration roof. There's an issue there with respect to the roof and its design and its how it could affect the from an ice perspective, the condenser and the piping and refrigeration equipment that's close by. So it's something that's been identified through staff and our contractor. It's quite concerning. So something we certainly want to address. Staff are trying to mitigate that at the moment, but we want to look to repair that for the long term. Municipal office reconfiguration. We've allocated $40,000 there, and that's mostly to do with new cubicles and redefining some of the space. Obviously, you know, we're not going to do any bricks and mortar changes or renovations here at the office. But with the growth of staff and we need to accommodate, we need to have available space. So it's a realignment of the space needs within the office itself, both first floor and second floor.
Just if I may comment, you'll also note that our lease on this building is done in December 31st, 2026. Whatever we're investing, we might want to be able to take it with us.
Next slide. New fire and security panel at Belmont Arena. It's just an outdated piece of equipment. It's getting more challenging. The parts are becoming obsolete. So to ensure our CSA compliance, it's something that will need to be done. Smaller budget of 13,000 allocated for that project. Masonry repairs at both arenas for $10,000. We kind of grouped them together. It's just a handful of repairs, repointing, and things like that need to be done. Just not only for the structural integrity piece, but just aesthetics overall to the facility. Ice plant compressor overhauls at both arenas, identified through our summer program this year. Something that tends to happen every 5 years or so on this equipment. So the $10,000 allocated there is for both sites to complete that work. Medical center furnace replacement. It's $6,500 with that. Just it's in poor condition, much like the one below it, the Fort Stanley Arena furnace replacement as well. So that's been identified. Both have been identified in poor condition and need to be fixed. Little Beach washroom. I know we spent quite a bit of time on this and looked at a number of different options here. Without, certainly, I know there's a lot going on with the development down there within Little Beach and the future, and we don't really have all those answers yet. We felt it was too premature to start to, construct or install larger infrastructure for water and wastewater. So we did look at a number of different options. This was the option that stood out to us, and we have identified. It's a trailer-like option. You can see kind of by the picture. There's actually 7 units in here altogether. There's 3 on the other side. If you're looking at this overhead, there's 3 on each side, and then the accessible one on the end. Trailer does actually drop low to the ground, so it's a barrier-free access from an accessibility standpoint. The trailer would be winterized and stored at White Station. Certainly it's an investment, and if anything was to be developed there, something more permanent from a washroom perspective, this could be, still utilized, redeployed in other areas or sold if we felt the need. We felt this was the best option, and that 165 is not only the purchase of the unit, but there's a little bit of site work that we need to do, not a lot. And we need, there's about $6,000 in that. That's for power, to bring the necessary power to the units.
If I may, Scott, 2 questions and 2 comments. One, Earth Power, which we own a certain percentage of. I was wondering that they might be a little more interested in running the line to it if they had their name on the side of it. So I wanted to ask you about a sponsorship possibility. I know it's a washroom, but still. And secondly, when I go to motorhome or Port Bruce in the summer, I ride my bike down there, and I'll see motorhomes or whatever you call them, trailers that are set up, and the people have made them look like they're actual cottages, like they've covered the wheels. And is there some thought to it being like, I like the fact that you can move it. I like the fact that depending if there's a band shell or a Ferris wheel at some point on the berm or houses or whatever, that this can be moved without putting a sewer line in and all that kind of stuff. But is there some look of permanence to it? Like, are the wheels covered and that kind of stuff? I know this is kind of small potatoes, but I think the community, and I'll defer to my colleague from Port Stanley, but this is a heck of an improvement for what's currently there. And anyway, those are just two comments, but very supportive.
Yeah, and I think to answer your question, I think there is some options there. I mean, this is one model from a certain vendor. that we spent quite a bit of time with, and we looked at a number of their different options. So I think there's some opportunities there that we could look at. The other thing to add with this, because it is self-contained, so there is a water, there's fresh water, not potable, but fresh water for hand washing and flushing, et cetera. The wastewater tank's quite large, so it's actually the equivalent of 9 porta potties. So there is some maintenance to it. I think there'll be a service level expectation that we've got these. There'll be additional cleaning on our end, which would be offset from the rental of all of the porta potties that we're spending the time on.
I guess off topic from the price, I'm just wondering about operationally, how we're gonna, is there gonna be some security, like we locking them up at 10 o'clock at night and then opening them up at 7 in the morning? Like, I'm just wondering about that, the security issue. And then my other question would be, how long do these last?
I asked that too.
I don't know, I'm not sure if I can put a number on that, but I would say 10 to 15 years, depends on how well we maintain them. I mean, it's our investment, so we'll be wanting to certainly maintain the asset effectively. To answer your locking question, so the advantage with these is they're a smart trailer, so they can automatically lock themselves at night and reopen them. So there's some options.
I believe Councillor Graham, at least, maybe you, Councillor Bachman, and I know the Deputy Mayor saw these on display at conferences.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so you can do a lot with a phone. You can have the piece. If I may, one piece, I just noticed here, it's air conditioned.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, but certainly we can control that as, from a hydro perspective. But yeah, the technology has come a long way. Even gives us real-time alerts if that, water's getting lower, waste tanks getting full, it sends off those alarms. So the parks folks who are doing the washroom cleaning as well at the main beach that's just part of their duties, would be extended over to maintain and service these ones. So there is a higher level of service, but we are saving on the rental costs of the porta potty.
Councillor Graham,
Mhm.
what do you think?
Yeah, looks good.
I would like to suggest that in discussions with staff, we have, last night, council approved a strategy for Port Stanley parking. What was it? Parking reserve. The recommendation is that the 165 come out of the Port Stanley parking reserve, which would leave it still with just a little over $2 million. So that's how we look at financing this. Just wanted to bring that forward. I think that's important, but it will leave then $2 million to put together the strategy on next steps. So looking forward to the new year, having obviously the councillor from Port and others that might want to talk about what the strategy is going to be with that reserve. It's a good number.
Nice. Okay, so for the fire service, 2026 projects. So the first one on the list is technical rescue equipment for our rope and confined space program. So this is a program that is approved as a service we provide through our establishing and regulating bylaw. Our equipment that we currently have, the large majority of it is past its service life, and it no longer meets the National Fire Protection Standards, 1670 and 1006. So we're looking to replace the equipment for rope and confined space so that we can continue to offer that service in a safe and reliable manner. The second one, very much the same situation. Our water and ice program those are rescues that we are approved to do through our establishing and regulating bylaw. So this one, we have been piecemealing some of our equipment as years go by, but the large bulk of our equipment on this as well is past its service life and is no longer meeting the NFPA standards, 1670 and 1006. So in order for us to continue offering specialized water and ice rescue, we need to update our equipment in this manner. So cancer prevention program. So this is a grant opportunity that the province has put out. This is year 2 of the grant. The Ontario Fire Protection Grant is designed for towards cancer prevention initiatives within fire stations. So this year, we're eligible for $65,000 as part of the grant. So we'll be looking to put in for a bunker gear washing machine at Station 3 and 4 diesel exhaust ventilation units, one per station, to ensure that we're capturing those diesel exhaust fumes in the station rather than them just being there. So again, we've put in for this grant approval. This project would be, it would be based on our approval of that grant. Radio pager upgrade. So this would be year 2 of a 2-year project. So we had 50,000 in the 2025 budget to replace radios and pagers. This is year 2 to replace our remaining radios and pagers that are outdated or past their service life. So this ensures us to have the reliable communications, upgrade some of the technology that is past its lifespan. These units, we have about a 10-year lifespan for our pagers. So as you can imagine, pagers today are much more tech savvy than they were 10 years ago. So this brings us up to date. Last one, portable lighting, or last one on this page, portable lighting and portable hand tools. So this is a year 1 of a 4-year program. So this is the purchase of battery operated portable lighting and hand tools to replace our aging corded and some of our old outdated battery equipment that has surpassed its service life. Our plan is that with battery operated tools, this is going to give us more mobility in emergency situations. It's also going to allow us to have interoperability with multiple tools. Now, battery tools have come a long way, and having it where multiple tools can operate on the same battery platform. And then as we go over our 4-year span, we'll be able to have it where all the stations are operating on the same battery platform, which allows interstation operations, things of that nature. So with this piece, we would do Port Stanley first. Any of our equipment that's still there that has a potential service life, we would be taking some of the older stuff out of the other 3 stations out of service, putting in that stuff that still has a service life into those 3 stations. And then each year we would be replacing another station and taking equipment out.
Just a question on that.
Yeah.
The union guys, they bought their own cordless DeWalt. Is this similar to what they bought themselves?
Yeah, so some of the stations have been buying some of their equipment through their associations. This would be replacing more of the need to haves. They will replace a lot of the want to have items, where this would be replaced the need to have. So the items that we use on a regular basis that are part of our regular kit that we would use for auto extrication, tech rescue, training incidents, things like that. But coming to a common, right now we have multiple brands across the 4 stations. It would be unifying that brand across all 4 stations, so we have interoperability. Then the last one on our list is the rescue boards and torpedo buoys for the beach patrol team. So luckily, when I started, I was able to meet with the beach patrol just as they were kind of closing things up. This was something that was flagged to me. These items are in dire need of replacement. I give credit to the members of the beach patrol team. They have re-fiberglassed and patched the rescue boards multiple times to the point where they need to be replaced. And then the torpedo buoys are the items that they carry out with them for every rescue that they do. Minimal capital investment, but it's something that's dearly needed to continue to run our beach rescue program or beach patrol program.
Just a question to that. I know in Port 2, they've added the lifeguard program, and there was a little bit of talk about closing in one of the bottoms of the towers, the lifeguard towers. And speaking with the buoys, this is where my lead into this. I was for a long time of the impression that the money that was collected from the parking in Port Stanley went towards supporting the costs for the beach patrol and the beach cleanup and the garbage and stuff like that. And like when we look at something like that, is that something, instead of it coming out of the fire reserves, should it come out of the money that was collected for the parking?
So again, this is the importance of having a policy for that parking reserve. There are a number of assumptions where that money should go to. So at this point, I would recommend that it come from the fire reserve. However, once council deliberates and understands, there's no shortage of expenses that relates to beach, whether it's our lifeguards, whether it's our operations, whether it's even capital projects, needs for the beach. So again, I think it's something that council really needs to take a look at it from a strategic perspective. So it's funding, but you also, you have a funding mechanism in place, but then council agrees completely with what that parking money should be going to. So at this time, I'd say for the 25,000, that it comes from the fire reserve, we have the money there, and then in the future, we can go forward. Yeah. I'm sure the chief is.
That is appreciated. That is appreciated.
So I'm going to take council through the Port Stanley Flood Mitigation Project. It's a large project that's going to occur over the next 3 years. We've got 3 projects that are identified for 2026. So I'll go through the 2026 projects first, and then I'll take you through what it looks like for 2027 and 2028. So as council is likely aware, in the 2025 budget, we had detailed design for this Port Stanley storm sewer upsizing. So we are working through the detailed design on that. We are about 90% complete of phase 1. We'd be in a position to tender that project likely sometime in January. But that involves, so once we tender it, we would be tendering for the construction of it. And the construction of the phase 1 of the upsizing would be included in the 2026 budget. So that involves reconstructing the storm sewers on William Street, Edith Cavell, Maud, Bessie, Lotus Lane, as well as the outlet at Hoppers Park. Water main and water services will also be updated as well as there will be a new gas line that goes in there, as well as electric utility adjustments. So we would likely be looking at underground hydro down a portion of William Street as part of this project that Earth would be chipping in the majority of the cost for. So that one construction would take place. The way we would likely structure that tender is we would have a finish date, whether that finish date for phase 1 is June 1st of 2027 or later on in 2027. So they would have to have their project completed by a certain date, but they wouldn't be able to work in Port Stanley down in the beach area between the May long weekend and Labor Day. So work at night. Next one here is that we've got detailed design that was identified in 2025. So we'll continue on with that detailed design for phase 2 of the project. Construction of that phase 2 of the storm sewer upsizing will happen in 27. The next project that we have identified in 2026 is detailed design on the east headland, the quay walls and the rock revetment rehabilitation around the berm area. So that would involve building up the berm area as well as building up the quay walls on the East Harbor to protect against the 100-year climate change water level and flood protection for the East Headland. So that will set the stage. So that will set the stage for development on the East Headlands, as well as that Main Street extension that was identified in the Harbor Secondary Plan.
Sorry, building up the berm itself, or building up the
rock revetment around the outside.
Okay.
So we have to meet a certain elevation, and that elevation will be determined in the detailed design of it. It was identified through the coastal risk assessment that was done in 2022, I believe it was when it was finished. So it identified in order to accommodate development on the East Headland, you needed flood protection to protect against the 100-year flood.
And by development, we mean
the Main Street extension, which is outlined in the Port Stanley Harbor Secondary Plan. So essentially,
It's mixed use.
it's mixed use, essentially extending Main Street to roughly the end of the the asphalt parking lot on the east headland.
Mhm.
So it would take mixed use down both sides of the road and extend Main Street out.
So without having mixed use on there, we wouldn't have to be doing this. Is that correct?
Mixed use, meaning residential, commercial.
Exactly.
If it were just parkland, then perhaps we wouldn't need to do it. We would need to do, at some point in time, where we would need to do a rehabilitation of that, rock revetment. So at some point in time, we're gonna have to do something anyways. We just may not have to build it up to the 100-year level if it was only to remain as parkland.
Why would we need to do work on the rock revetment?
We need
In
to,
100 years, maybe, or in 200 years? I mean, the
well,
rock.
we need to, in order to accommodate development, we have to protect against the 100-year flood.
Right, but if
so-
we're talking, if we take the mixed use out of it,
Mhm.
hypothetically speaking, we take the mixed use out of it and it's just remains parkland and all those in the parking lot and everything, then we wouldn't need to be doing this. Is that correct?
I don't believe we would need to do it. If we want permanent structures there, we need to do it. If you want, there's a proposal for a band shell, there's a proposal for beach washrooms. We would want to protect against the 100-year flood on those structures. So
If I may, I think it's already in the plan.
it's already in the plan.
Use.
Well, the
So
mixed use is
currently-
identified in the secondary plan.
Yeah,
We've also executed an agreement with the federal government for funding this project that was done in 2022. So it lays out the funding for the project. So essentially, the municipality has committed to the project in actually it was 2023, I believe it was signed off on.
my understanding was that we didn't have to do all parts of it. But that's just for future.
No, I don't think we have to do this. You mean all parts of the,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. But I think that on mixed use, I thought that ship has sailed.
No, I mean, that was the past council's approval of the Harborfront Master Plan. Doesn't mean that it won't change in the future.
I think,
But
I
that-
think, I
that
think,
one-
I think from a planning perspective, that has been, I think there's an official plan, there's a secondary plan indicating that there'll be development there. We have, development inquiries all the time about that area, so, the
But again, it can
administra-
change, right?
the administration is moving forward with that, plan for- as for development. I mean, if council wants to change their mind, they need to do it, yesterday or.
Or next, after the next election.
Gomez already has plans to build there,
Mhm.
so we've already done part of that deal with them. So we definitely can't renege on that.
Well, no, talking about the mixed use that goes down and around by the, on the
But
parking
it
lot there.
starts right there at the old Jackson building. That's
Yeah,
already
which is a
part of it.
pre-existing building. Anyway, thanks, Jeff.
So that's the East Headland rock revetment rehabilitation. The next one we've got identified here is the detailed design for the extension of the breakwater. That would be the west breakwater. That project would entail, to start off, a Schedule C municipal class environmental assessment. So that project would likely take between 12 and 16 months to complete, or 12 to 18 months to complete. And that will take a look at what the issue is. The issue is when we get winds from the southeast, we tend to get big rolling waves into the harbor, and we get waves overtopping the harbor walls. If you recall, when we had a high water level back in 2020, we had Jersey barriers set up along the east side of the harbor to protect against it. When we had that high water, those waves would come rolling in and crash over top. So this would be the solution to that problem.
They're still there, those blocks
Oh, the Jersey barrier.
in front of the,
Yeah.
what's that called, in on the harbor or in Dan Silhani's building.
Yeah, so that, they were installed at that point in time.
Yeah, I remember the day it happened. Days.
I think there was a boat loose in the harbor yeah, that's
Is this
right.
for sorry, this is slated for 2026?
This is the environmental assessment and detailed design would be let out in 2026. It's essential that we move forward on this one because of the length of time to get this one done. We need to have this one done by the end of 2028. In order to do that, we need to get an RFP on the street by probably the latest at the end of January of 26.
Why does it need to be done by the end of 2028?
Funding commitments.
What was that,
There's a
sorry?
hefty grant with that though, too, it says here.
Sorry, what was that answer, Jeff? To my question?
Funding,
Through the government?
From the government, yes.
I thought it went into the 30s, 2030 something, 2032.
Yeah, that schedule's tightened up.
That's changed.
Yes, we're aiming to have this, everything wrapped up by the beginning of 2029.
And that's based on us or based on the federal government's requirements?
That's based on our funding requirements. In order to get it done, we need to have it done by 2029.
That's what the federal government has said to us.
And so when we had the open house at the arena, when was that? March, April?
Yep.
That was,
We had it planned, I believe the Class EA at that time was planned for 2027, so we're moving up to
okay,
2026.
so you did the pre-consult at that point,
Yes.
and then we're,
So the Class EA, it would have a lot of public engagement. It'd take a look at the problem and find the solution. So whether that breakwater was extended off the lighthouse or was further out in the water, further in on the harbor, that would be determined through this Class EA. Okay, next slide. Okay. So this is to take a higher level look at the entire program here, how we've got it scheduled through the next 3 years. We've gone through what 2026 looks like. 2027, we would look at construction of the East Headlands, that rock revetment. We would also be looking at starting phase 2 of the storm sewer upsizing project, and that would include the north part of Williams, Smith Street, George Street. And then we would undertake detailed design for extending the dunes along Main Beach. That was a recommendation out of the coastal risk assessment to extend those dunes along further to the west along Main Beach to protect against flood uprush from the lake. 2028, phase 2 of the rock revetment construction and construction of the breakwater extension, as well as construction of the dunes along the beach. So we've got some further descriptions of some of these projects. I think we've gone through them all now. So I think we can bypass these next 2 slides and then move on to information technology.
Thanks, Jeff. IT has a couple of capital projects slated for 2026. These aren't tax funded projects. 74,000 for refreshing 54 different devices. More than half of those devices are infrastructure, so like firewall, access points, items like that. There are minimal amounts of laptops and desktop computers. The other project's a server upgrade. The wording here is not really right. It's actually updating the operating system on several servers. The operating systems are set to expire and not be supported past January 12th of 2027. So we would definitely want to get those operating systems updated before January. That's the project.
Turning it over to me, if we want to get into specifics in regards to this project, I would ask that we go into closed session. However, from a high level, currently we have our project management costs as relates to this file, as it relates to our project management, legal, our engagement, or our government relations and communications plan. A project this size at this time is identified, however, unfunded. So I've asked the treasurer to allocate the contingency, or sorry, the tax stabilization reserve to fund this portion of it, knowing that a large portion of these will be reimbursed. The second is the zoning bylaw. So this is the second part of after the official plan amendment is completed, the next step would be to continue with the comprehensive zoning bylaw for this area. And this is part of our commitment to escalate or to advance any development approvals in order to meet the housing demands for the area. And then thirdly, the financial studies I think are very important. The first one is the fiscal impact study. And this is something that would identify all the capital cost implications for this new community and identify some of our costs as it relates to servicing. And so that we could implement a long-term financial plan for this work. This is instrumental in developing our phasing plan for development to ensure that the municipality could afford the development. The second piece is updating our long-term financial plan community-wide. The psychiatric properties, again, impacting about 56% of our future growth. So this long-term financial plan would do the analysis of whether our rates will sustain this development to ensure that we're ensuring that our fees and charges and are making this development affordable for the municipality.
Okay, the next one we've got are, when we're looking at bridges, we are carrying the OSIMS bridge, culvert and green wall inspections in the budget this year. So every 2 years, we're required to do official inspections of our bridges and retaining walls. And the next one, we've got harbor. This one was proposed last year, the bathymetric survey to map the flood zone of the harbor in 2015. Council at the time committed to doing soundings or a bathymetric survey every 2 years to map the flood zone of the harbor. So there are certain elevations that we need to maintain to protect against flooding of the harbor.
Would anyone needing a break?
Where's the cost is attributed to this or more information on this?
The soundings,
40,000 or 30?
we've got 30.
$30,000.
Yeah, 5-minute break. Go down on the.
Okay. I think we appreciate everyone's endurance. It's I know there's a lot of information here. We are in the nearly, at least we went through the bulk of the budget. We're going to jump into water and wastewater. And then just finish off with an overview of rates and fees with hopes that you review it from now until January with the bylaw. With that, we'll jump into water and wastewater. So through discussions between Kerry, the mayor, and myself, we landed on these proposed rates for 2026. You will see that water is remaining unchanged. So the flat rate will stay steady at 32.31, and the consumption rate will stay at 3.24. Wastewater, however, we are suggesting a change in the consumption rate to 2.99. And really what that is don't quote me on the numbers, but I think it's around 800 to 1,000 customers where we divert to St. Thomas. We're paying now $2.99, so it would be nice to recover our costs there. So we are proposing an increase on that charge.
About 1,200 customers.
1,200. Thank you, Scott.
So that'd be, those 1,200 we'd be paying, we were charging $2.85 and getting charged by St. Thomas $2.99. So losing 14 cents. So for this panel or this group's discussion, I had said that if the water stayed the same, I would thought it would be reasonable to go from to the cost that we were being charged by St. Thomas. That's for your consideration.
So the next slide does bring it back from a financial overview. No, it doesn't.
No, this is a good one.
Inserted this slide.
Yeah, I think this is, yeah, thank you, David. You speak to it, but I think it's an excellent point. It also shows the progress, like it doesn't go like the historic, but you'll see that other jurisdictions are going up. I was told this morning by Councillor Shadare that St. Thomas's tax increase this year at 6.1%. That can't be, I heard 5, but anyway, they're putting up their water and wastewater. The rates that you have before you factor in the increases that other jurisdictions have for 26. So if you look at it here, you know, we've come down. Is there more to go? Yes, but I think it shows progress. And we're really not that far. We can't compare to Aylmer and the city of St. Thomas with respect to industrial, I realize, but if you look at the other jurisdictions, there's increases across the board. And at the end of the day, I think we've been relatively pragmatic in how we're doing things, but I think it's an interesting graph.
Through your mayor too, I think something we kind of late out because I'm a resident of Middlesex Center, so I get the info, so I can speak to that. What's not reflected in this slide is their increases have gone up quite significantly by 5.4% in 4.5% on the current water rate, 5% on the wastewater, and then they have also carry a stormwater rate at 9%. So they'll actually bump up in that graph quite significantly.
We can change,
What?
update this graph.
We have an updated version.
Okay, because Dunwich, as Delaney and I have chatted about, it was 11, they're putting it up 11 points, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing to note is other jurisdictions are they're charging additional fees.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, is it a tax or a tax? It's a tax, but the piece there, the other piece that, yeah. So I think we will see Dutton Dunwich change. And as you said, your municipality as well.
And others are just starting to post their rates too. So we're starting to get a little bit more information too.
Why I think this is important, it shows the rate pair where we are and you know, our peer group.
Okay, this is where the rates really impact your reserves and where we're headed with both of these services. So water there, the top section is really just bringing the, I'm just gonna walk from the top to the bottom. It's a little bit easier that way. So with water and wastewater there's your revenue per rates, which was a slide just before. We do collect other revenue from other areas, fairly small amount in comparison. Transfer from DCs. The bank loan for the Port Stanley wastewater treatment plant is actually eligible for DC funding. This wasn't done last year in the budget process, so we need to go back in time and readjust these reserves. There is no impact to the bottom line though. Basically, the adjustment would be depleting DC reserves and building non-DC reserves. But this year in the 2026 budget, we did work with Watson. We got some numbers and we're bringing in $595,000 on wastewater DC to support the payment of the Port Stanley wastewater treatment plant loan. Transfers from non-DCs. So water, the rates that we're charging for water are not sustainable. We are drawing $245,000 from the non-DC reserve to meet those requirements. So that would bring us to total revenue available, and then there's your expenses. You can see there, obviously, if we're drawing from water reserve, we're not contributing, so you can see a zero there. On the wastewater, it is a much better story. Those rates plus the contribution from the DC reserve, we're able to put $740 into the non-DC reserve. So of course, they need to balance because we have to. There's your annual capital that you heard about previously. More importantly is the reserves in the bottom. DC reserves, I am concerned about them, but not as much as the non-DC reserves. DC reserve balances, so you see the deficit in water, that will be taken into consideration on the next DC study. So the DC rates will be adjusted to make up for that deficit. But as of the way it sits here right now, water DC would have a deficit of 98,000 and wastewater would have a surplus of 389. More importantly is how is your non-DC reserves doing? Some people refer to those DCs as your rate stabilization reserves for the utilities. Water, without doing the asset management plan, looking at it here, we are, even with the drawdown, we're still running 1.3 million surplus at the end of the year. And thankfully on the wastewater, we are able to turn that around from a deficit of 205 to a surplus of 500,000. So I think the emphasis with the discussions we've had, the emphasis continues to be on wastewater. We really do need to continue building that reserve. Both of them need to be built, but specifically wastewater, we need to continue with the commitment we made in 2025.
And this is to fund our capital programs in the future. So again, the commitment you're making, or if you're choosing to make regards to the water meter program, that would be funded through here, as well as we're working on a 5 to 10-year capital plan as it relates to water and wastewater. So with the asset management plan being completed, it will lay out to you the next 5 years of spending. So ensuring that you've got enough money in the reserves to afford those projects.
Who cares about, that's not coming out right. So if you've got wastewater infrastructure, we know that, Belmont, Lagoons, Port Stanley, tens of millions of dollars increase, whatever. With water, we're buying it, correct? So is it not fundamental that your reserves for wastewater are more important than your reserves for water when we're just sending a check to get access to water?
You still have all your infrastructure, it's water, or pumps, or towers, or facilities as it relates. So we still own, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping in, but these gentlemen would be able to provide the details, but we still have our own assets, our pipes, the things that we own that we still have to maintain. And if there's a break, be able to repair and or replace.
Okay, but would it not be fair to say that your reserves for water and wastewater is more significant need for the new capacity because of the cost of new capacity, or am I wrong?
You're wrong.
Thank you.
So just for example, BAM had to replace that water pipe that shoots down Lake Shore, and it's like 20 million. BAM's portion is like $20 million. That's just for water.
But that would be growth related, so that would, this is.
No, this isn't, well, this is.
Oh,
the
that's
pipes
for
wore out.
replacement?
That's replaced.
Oh, my
The
apologies.
pipes wore
Sorry,
out,
my
and
apologies, yeah.
Central Elgin does have a part in
Yeah.
that. I think our part is small, like 250,000 or something, but BAM's is like 20 million. So I don't think our little chart there with BAM's cost might be accurate after they get.
I can take that out of submarine fund.
I think I
Yeah, a
hear
lot of-
it.
They don't even get the revenue side of the submarine. It's like worst deal ever.
That non-DC reserve is going to pay for replacements of existing infrastructure, maintenance, like painting of the water tower. That's where that's going to be funded. Replacement of, I think there's still some cast iron pipes that need to be replaced. That's where that's funded from. So if you don't have a reserve to pay for it, you either have to take money from another reserve to pay for it or debt finance it. Much like the municipality's done over the last 20 years, most of our major capital projects were debt financed.
So what should that reserve be at? Good ballpark.
We'd have a better picture in the next, give us 2 to 3 months and let us dive into the asset management plan. We'll have a much better picture.
Can you ballpark it now?
One little other piece of info could we please consider? Starting in 2028, $8 million a year from St. Thomas, 5 years in a row. So I just want everyone to think about that. Okay. So when it comes to reserves, when it comes to all this, we did not have that when they did the last plan. I mean, we've got access to capital. I should know that year. When did we make the deal? It was 5 years out, so it'll be 28. Okay, so 29, 30, 31, 32, there's $5 million coming in. Plus the 10 we've got, which we're just getting the 3.5 and the interest, 350,000. So once this new review comes through, right? I mean, arguably, when you say about the water rate at its current rate not being quote sustainable, I mean, I think that that doesn't take into consideration using some of those monies or some of the future monies that will be derived from that. That's all. Is that fair?
I think if I may jump in, I think we're starting to be able to provide you, we will finally be able to provide you with data so you can make data-driven decisions. So recognizing our assets, where they're at, what the replacement and the management cycle of those are over the next 5 to 10 years will inform. So yes, that $1 million may absolutely indeed help. However, we need to understand the cost over the next 5 years. So, I mean, we could debate this, but I think it's really important that you have the data. We're just getting it as well. We can present you with what that looks like over the next 5 to 10 years. As a municipality, you're maturing, we're starting to get that data. And then all these pieces are falling into place.
Makes sense.
And if we want to play fear factor, any truth to the articles about the $400 million fee for the water system?
Absolutely, yes,
Volkswagen?
yeah, it's absolutely been, it was already previously identified, that was never it was never a secret that 400 million or potentially more, so by doing that EA, what normally happens in a project like that, is that a 400 million is identified at this time, however, normally the costs are, significantly higher than what it was normally with projects like that, because at that time it was identified as a place marker, but once you do more detailed design and your environmental assessment impacts, then you go to market and see what those costs are. I know in Collingwood where I lived at one point, I think it was identified, I don't quote me, but I think the actual cost of the project either doubled or tripled. So there is a lot of investment from an infrastructure point of view happening in this area because of the growth. Yeah, just leave it at that.
So lots of information we went through, and you're probably wondering, okay, where do we go from here? But what I've done is, we've gone through the presentation, just trying to pull out some key indicators that some key takeaways, if you will, because I know you've seen a lot of data here today. So a couple points that I do want to bring to your attention is, revenue increases over the previous year. So in 2025, we increased by 5.2% in the previous year. And that was mostly driven from bringing in and recognizing interest earned on investments. This year, the way the numbers sit, we're increasing revenue by 3.1% over 2025. Expenses, on the other hand, in 2025 increased by 7.8%. This year, we really did sharpen our pencils. The increase over 2025 is 4.3%. Still, to me, going in the wrong direction. Revenue is not increasing at the same rate expenses are. This is what this is showing you. Tax dollars being contributed directly to capital or net reserves. 2025 was 3.9. We're currently sitting at 3.4. Estimated reserve balances. Yes, 34 million looks pretty good. We'll have a better picture on that when we do our financial plan with the asset manager plan. But here you are seeing an $800,000 reduction against reserves. Just some key points from the asset management plan, which this group will see likely in January. Central Elgin has $753 million of assets. So when you look at your reserves, which really reduce risk, ensure financial stability, and for the ratepayer, it really does smooth out the rate impacts year over year, because instead of asking the ratepayers to pay for a road grader all in 1 year, we're spreading it out through reserve contributions. The asset management plan has identified, now we need to spend more time analyzing it and understanding it. But the asset management plan does show that we're contributing only 60% of what's required to sustain the levels of service that we're providing today. So we are proposing a 2% rate increase at minimum. And if we do that, you'll see here, it does make some small but significant changes. So right away, increase by 2% taxes flips the revenue and expense story now. So now revenue is growing at a rate higher than expenses, which is where we need to be. Over on the far right-hand side, tax dollars to capital, we're now exceeding what we put into 2025, which I think is important for sustaining assets into the future. And it does bring our reserves up to 34.4 million. And that 2% is worth about 360,000, 357 to be exact.
357 going forward.
Yes, 357 this year, and it will, then next year we collected 357, collected again, and they claim. So that, I don't think there's any other slides. Yes, there is. Sorry. Proposed impact to the homeowners. So annual taxes, Central Elgin proposed 2%. When I spoke with Jen at the county, they have a draft increase of 1.3% on the county. So the average taxpayer combined would see an increase on their tax bill of 1.53%. Water and wastewater, very small change there. Combined monthly total increases by $7.62, which means to the average ratepayer, they would see a $91.40 increase per year. If you go to the, yes. So I guess we can pause there if anyone has any questions or comments regarding water and wastewater before we roll into rates and fees. Okay, if anyone does have any questions, again, feel free to email us or give us a shout. We can roll into rates and fees. So today was more of an introduction to rates and fees, kind of show you the process we went through, introduction, if you will, as to what is to come. The rates and fees will be reviewed at council in, I think, January or February.
You know, it'll be part of the budget process. It'll come on January 24th.
Thank you, Carrie. So I thought it was important that the group see how we did the rates and fees. There are a couple of discussion points in here. Rates and fees, just as a reminder, we didn't change them for 2025. Any proposed increases in the rates and fees we read, based on consumer price index, will have been factored in twice. So that may be a point of discussion. So we would have increased it for 2025 and then again in 2026, and then that's the new rate for 2026. That's not applicable to all departments. Parks and Rec specifically were excluded from that calculation. The option there again, if this group would like, we can do away with the 2 years and just take the CPI from last year's rate and move forward. Consumer price index, just to give you some information here, 2024 was 2.4%. We're now running 2.2%, but that does change each month. This year, what we asked managers to do was really a 3-step process. Review the existing fees and get rid of any fees that are not applicable today. So that's really the fee removal. Fee additions, are we providing any services to the public that we aren't charging for? Those have been highlighted. And then lastly would be a fee review, which is with emphasis on cost recovery and benchmarking to other municipalities. Are we charging the right amounts? The rates and fee schedule, as you will remember, is a very, very long document. I've tried to summarize it into one slide here. So please, this is a summary. CPI was basically applied to these departments. Other services, fire services, Jeff did a very thorough review and we have added different fees in there related to services that we were providing and not charging. The same goes with water and wastewater. We were providing services where there were no fees attached. So I know Scott reviewed that as well, and we made some fairly significant changes there. There were minor changes to the other areas, and parking has not been taken into consideration from last night's discussion. So we really didn't want to go through it all here. We thought you folks would have enough with going through the budget. The rates and fees schedule, we'll follow through it and distribute that, I think. Or Carrie and I will touch base and figure out what's the best approach. But that will be going for council approval in January.
January 26th.
Does anyone have any questions on the process for rates and fees, or perhaps comments around the factoring in the 2 CPI adjustments?
Explain, so that your 2 CPI adjustments.
So the current bylaws stipulated that rates and fees were to be adjusted by CPI.
Okay.
So in 2025,
We didn't do anything.
we didn't. But it took a fee from 2024 at 2%. So if there was $100 charge there in 2024, in 2024-5, it should have been $102. And now it should be 102 times 2% again.
104, a little more, but you're wanting to go from
So,
100 to
so we went
104.
from 100 to. Not in all of them, just some of them. And I think another important part here is the adjustments that we did put into the draft. After doing the twice on CPI, they are still within, when the group benchmarked with local municipalities, they were still well within what other municipalities are charging, if not less. So. That's, I know there's a lot of information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all. And I guess from a housekeeping perspective, if you're not going to take the documents with you, you can leave them here and I'll make sure they're shredded.
No, we have some time, but any capital projects that might have been missed or anything from the committee that we could, oh, Jeff, go ahead, please.
There was, one, that I did catch that wasn't in the, presentation document. And it's the risk assessment for 177 Carlo, which is, just south of
Reba.
So we're continuing on with a risk assessment, which will eventually provide for a record of site condition on that property, which would set the stage for a more sensitive use on that land or mixed use development.
That parking spot there?
Yeah.
Parking area there?
So,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna throw a curveball in here. We talked about, crosswalks and stuff like safe passage for kids in Belmont. And the conversation came up about crossing guards. Now, I know it won't affect us next year, but the next council is gonna have to, because that's something we have to pay for, correct? Like that doesn't come out of school board money. That's our fee.
Really?
Yeah, and
Have we ever had it before, like Port Stanley or anywhere?
no, the only difference, and I don't want to diminish it, the only difference is that we have Highway 74 going through the middle of our town. Right?
Deal, yeah.
So, that's just a consideration, maybe just in the back of your mind, just file it away.
Because it's a county road, does the county have to pay for the?
I would, yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
The answer is no. Or so fun.
Yeah. But, anyway, just to file that away.
I've had
Because I may be
very,
looking for another job.
I've had very limited info. I sent one to Miss Leach from a fellow, yeah. I don't want to make it personal because I guess we're still, if some things come along, what are your recommendations if an email comes in and says, in 2026, we think you should do the following project? Send it to you, send it to the finance committee. What would the deal be?
So again, because the process is different this year, you could put those as part of the council deliberations on the 26th. Ultimately,
Fine.
it's your budget you're presenting, so if you want to include them, that's your purview. If not, then you can ask council their opinion.
Was one that was requested last year that didn't get, and
Yes, you can tell the group.
well, it's the yacht club. We paved part of the road, but you know the story, right? So I'll bring it forward. I mean, someone's gonna write me and send it. What am I supposed to do? I realize it's the mayor's budget, but I want to continue the process we have. So I'm happy to send them through to the committee if they want to look at them. Delaney, I guess I'm asking for advice.
So again, I caution you, the committee doesn't, the committee can comment on it, but
Sure.
has no authority.
That's fine.
So if you want to share the information now, the committee can provide comments. We're at the very last strokes of finalizing.
Okay.
The Lions Club. Well, they're looking for a big project and put some money towards, so maybe we should ask them to put the money towards their own project on the driveway.
Canaggio that's writing us. So, pardon me, who's the fellow from? It's from Canaggio Yacht Club,
Yes,
isn't it? Yeah.
Mr. Knowles.
Mr. Knowles from Canaggio Yacht Club would like the rest of the road paved.
The cemetery board has also reached out, just late last week. Again, I know they have a board meeting again tonight, so I know that. They've requested to come to council to make a delegation.
Carrie and Dave,
If we, last night we were talking about a bridge a little bit. How do we, maybe if we go and decide to get a bridge, how do we save, or where do we find the money for that going forward?
So again, what bridge you talking? Cheeky. So again, further to council's direction, we will come back to council with the evaluation of both of those two tenders, and council will have a decision right now. We've carried, I believe, $400,000 for the Pleasant Valley Bridge, plus another 600,000, so it depends.
In a reserve.
So,
there's $1 million in it right now today for Pleasant
Yeah.
Valley. If this budget's approved. There's 600 that was approved last year, 400 more in this current budget. So that would bring you to $1 million.
To North Point, we can go to Infrastructure Ontario for a loan.
we could
So-
debenture it.
There's debenturing. I mean, I'm not suggesting this, please,
No.
but they're available for other projects as well. We have the ability to access capital at lower than bank rates. So hypothetically, if it's an investment, you take a project and you put money against it and pay it off in 10 or 20 years. That's available for any infrastructure. What's our debt level with respect to borrowing?
I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I do know it's high enough. It's collected, it's gathered the attention of the ministry twice where I've sat and defended our debt level to them.
Well, we've got $14 million in the bank, which I don't think many of our peer groups would have 14 sitting, would they?
No, but they're just looking at the debt and.
But with our debts coming, or with the two loans being dropped, that dropped significantly.
In 3 and 20.
Three loans.
Yes.
Next
So,
year.
but that significantly alters our debt capacity for 2026 from 57% to significantly lower. Remember that email you sent? So for 2026, it is much lower. Further to Councillor Watson's comment, I mean, Mr. Jansseune provides you our reserve schedule here as well. So that provides you the status of the reserves. So again,
You would ask for that, David.
so you can see, you know, there are places where additional money for bridges could potentially come.
Are there any other questions? I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for adjournment. Councillor Bachman, Councillor Watson.
That's right, I didn't hear David's instruction. Do you want this, all the documentation to stay here, or can they take it?
You're more than welcome to take it with you. It's public information, but if you're not going to take it, then just leave it here.
Comments? Okay.
So we're looking to adjourn and create another.
All in favor?
Versus master.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
The one thing I didn't